Hydreight is the only nationwide, fully compliant mobile medical platform offering nurses an opportunity to monetize their skills at their convenience. And with me is Shane Madden, a director and CEO, to explain more about Hydreight. So, welcome, Shane.
Everyone,
Great
thank
to
you.
have you here. So, provide an overview of what Hydrate's mission is. Where does it fit into the healthcare industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to keep that answer to not the whole interview, okay? So because there's a little bit to unpack there, but our vision essentially was in reaction to the healthcare system. I mean, people have called it fragmented, stressed, broken, even if you want to be sensational. So Hydrate's goal was essentially to create the nation's first fully mobile medical network across all 50 states. And I'll go back to why that was the goal in response to the problem in a few minutes. But essentially, to do that, we had to create basically a medical network that was across all 50 states that was compliant with corporate practice of medicine. One little fact that most people don't know is that it's actually illegal in most of the states for nurses to work outside of a hospital or a bricks and mortar in a 1099 capacity, whether you have medical direction or not. So you have to be working on a very specific custom medical network. So we created that, obviously created some proprietary software to go with that. But one of the reasons we actually founded Hydreight and one of the missions behind it was because the healthcare system was essentially hadn't been changed for a long time. So it was very reactive. And a lot of the problems that you see, I won't throw too many reports at you, but the NSI healthcare report in 2023 came out that the RN turnover was still 22.5% this year. Now it was 27% in 2021, but we all know what happened there. So things haven't really changed. Nurses are essentially overworked because the hospitals are either undermanned, mismanaged, however that goes. But again, the reason for that is because it's a reactive state. So Hydreight tried to actually look at this from a structural standpoint as to how can we build a model that actually is in addition to and support of the healthcare system. So creating that mobile network so that essentially it's preventative. If you can get to the patients, in a preventative manner before they get to the hospital, I mean that's going to help with the whole system. And essentially, it was a really big initiative. It's taken us a few years to get a foothold across all 50 states, but I feel like we're on. We've just built the lobby of a skyscraper, so I feel like we're on floor number one right now.
When it sounds like it fits a need in the healthcare system, could you elaborate a little bit on the services? What are the range of services on the platform? How do they benefit nurses as well as patients?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so like any very large endeavor, again, we get referred to all the time as the Uber for nurses, but it's I think that's mainly because we were the first company to allow nurses to come as a 1099 contractor outside of the bricks and mortar for the reasons that we showed them, and we basically fix all barriers to entry for the nurses, whether that is access to a medical director, access to pharmaceuticals, malpractice insurance, corporate practice of medicine compliance, all of the things that would have made that literally impossible to do, we have it on a platform. So we started off essentially with our flagship product was IV therapy. Essentially, the nurses, it was very attainable. RNs, all RNs can do that in all states. The patient need was there. Like if you ever go to a hospital, the first thing they'll do is put you on an IV before they even know what's wrong with you. So the upsides of that, and there's various types of IV therapy depending on what you're looking for or where your health is. But it was the first starting point to build the platform. So we started with that, and then we started to branch into the other services that the nurses could either monetize, something like aesthetics, which is obviously more from a monetized recreational standpoint, and then into the more essential products like at-home lab testing. Everyone's heard about semaglutide, NAD plus, which is like a magic drug for your body, and branched into those things. Obviously, incorporating telemedicine within all of that to kind of complement our vision of having a mobile medical network. That
Mhm.
was the key. So that's where we're at. So we had to build up those steps to it.
Very interesting. How does the revenue model work? What are your revenue streams?
We have kind of three basic revenue streams. So because it's essentially a medical network at heart, that's what the nurses join, and then there's a proprietary software that sits on that. So we have a software annual approximately $3,000 for the year, but that includes membership to the medical network and to the software platform. So essentially, medical director, access to medical doctors when telemedicine is needed, access to the pharmacy, digital pharmacy, access to the software platform, malpractice insurance, all of those things. So that's kind of the subscription side of things. Then all services that go through have to be gone through the app in a certain way for corporate practice of medicine reasons. So again, there's a facilitation fee there, approximately 10%. And then the pharmaceuticals for oversight, medical, and actually pharmacy laws are all ordered through our digital pharmacy. And that can be anywhere from 15 to 20%. But again, our prices, because of our structure and because we're all 50 states, is still more competitive than anybody would be able to get that themselves.
So that leads me into my next question. Since you're in all 50 states, I can't even imagine how difficult it must be to make sure you're in compliance with every state, to make sure that you have a high standard of care while also being in compliance. How did you navigate all of that?
With great difficulty is the answer. We are one of the few companies again that we keep an eye on. We had a large proof of concept to begin with. Again, this hadn't been done before. We were the first to market to even envisage this. Again, to go back without sounding redundant, we were trying to be an addition to, not replace, of the healthcare system, and also solve a lot of these problems for the nurses. I mean, again, not to throw stats at you, but 18% of all RNs, again, this was in the NSI healthcare report, 18% of all RNs newly licensed quit in the first year. Right now, again, this goes back to a larger problem as to why are the hospitals, overcrowded? Why is the workplace stressful? And we were trying to position ourselves there. So essentially, we came at it from that standpoint, and essentially we grew it to all 50 states with the eye on the boards. So there's a medical board, a pharmacy board, and a nursing board in each of the 50 states, and they can be like a little country. They can have different laws and everything, and we're one of the only companies that actually keeps an eye on that on a quarterly basis. Make sure that everything is we're ahead of the game with legislation. We know what's coming, what's about to come, what's even being discussed to come. So that's one of our absolute core things that we look at.
Yeah, I can imagine you'd have to stay on top of that situation for every state. What about future plans, targets, milestones? Where do you want to go from here?
The opportunity, as I said earlier, we feel like we actually created this platform. We're very proud to be at this position, but it's ground one. It's floor number one of a skyscraper, as I said. So there's 2,600 nurses roughly on our platform right now. There's 4.5 million nurses in the United States, and again, they're dropping off. So we're trying to solve that problem, right? We're trying to be, the addition to the current platform, the hospitals and the doctors also offer a completely new way of monetizing your credentials. So we're definitely going to be just continuing what we do right now. As the workforce grows, we definitely see the opportunity to partner up with the hospitals or the doctor networks or the home healthcare companies of the country, because we are essentially going to be the mobile workforce. So absolutely, that's not a necessity thing to do, but it does fit in with our overall plan, because that's one of the reasons we actually created the company, was in response to the problems and to try to get ahead of why those problems are happening. So that is one of the huge things. The opportunity, I feel, is all in front of us right now. There was a lot of hard work done into creating the platform and the network, and I feel all the opportunities in front of us, many directions to go.
Of course, during the pandemic, there were a lot of telemedicine going on, even the mobile health clinics. People were getting, COVID vaccinations, in parking lots and things like that. Do you feel like some of that has stuck with us permanently? And what kind of lessons did you learn from that experience?
Great question. I feel that COVID nearly shone a light on the problem. And the statistic I gave you earlier from the NSI healthcare report, it hasn't gone away. So if the RN turnover was 27% in 2021 and still 22.5, it hasn't gone away. So I think COVID shone a light on the fact that individualized healthcare, a step before the reactive practices that are currently there, which is basically nothing happens until you're sick. I think it just shone a light on all of those things. The funny part about what happened with COVID was telemedicine was around for a long time. People just didn't know it because it was in an area of an already broken system. So I think COVID was really just shining a light on problems that were there for quite a while.
Mhm. And you talked a little bit about nurses being hired kind of on demand through digital platforms such as Hydreights. I mean, how does that impact traditional care? How does that impact the standards of care, patient care? What have you seen? Have you seen improvements in those areas, or is there challenges there?
Yeah, it benefits the patients and the providers in multiple ways actually. So the nurses have an extra way to monetize their credentials, but also giving care is what they wanted to do. This is what they do. So instead of having only one outlet, which is the hospital or the doctor's network, and if that's not good enough, you're out, right? This has a whole other branch of it. Now, on the patient side of it, this is what they've wanted for a while. It just hasn't been there. Individualized healthcare and preventative healthcare is the way medicine is going.
Yeah.
But to balance those two, you need a mobile medical network. You need to have not just doctors, which all companies have focused on for years, telemedicine and doctors, but the backbone of healthcare is nurses. If that's not there, there is no healthcare system. And that's the main reason that the system was broken. So to take that mobile and to involve the preventative individualized medicine side of it, you're actually taking the stress off of the main system. So it benefits everything.
Wow, very interesting company, innovative, and solves a problem that's important to all of us. So, thank you so much, Shane, for explaining Hydrate.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jen.